Hey, welcome back to another Get Geekish podcast brought to you by insert sponsor here. Hey, I'm Bino. It's Derek over there. We're doing our thing as always every week. Thanks for joining us. And this week we're gonna feel old. I feel old most days now, but the whole idea about this podcast started because all of the previews, on the Facebook page we shared on there, but HBO Max is going to be airing that 20th anniversary of Harry Potter special. Yes, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the movie, came out 20 years ago. How does that make you feel, Derek?
Well, you said how you already feel old. I mean, when your body cracks like a glow stick at a rave when you're getting out of a chair. Yeah. So hearing that it was 20 years old didn't really make me feel better about myself. And, I was actually kind of what coincided with that when you brought that up. The other day it hit me, it's one of those things when you're on social media, right? You're scrolling, we have to do it for jobs and whatnot. And you're sitting there scrolling and then like posts just come up and like slap you across the face of like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, 20th anniversary. And it's like, what? Like, to me, those movies, I mean, I know they didn't just come out, but it feels like maybe 10 years ago.
It's the kind of things when those kind of movies, when you remember seeing the preview a year before the movie came out, you remember getting excited about it, you remember buying your tickets and being in line to go to the movie opening week, and that was now over 2 decades ago that all went down, but you still remember it up here like it was much, much more recent than that.
Well, it's funny, too, because I was talking about this with my wife, is like song lyrics, movie quotes, movies, random stuff like that. Got it locked in my brain. Memories, childhood memories, everything like that, they're a little fuzzy. So when you get hit with something like this, it's like, maybe I don't remember it as much as I thought I did.
Well, it's like we talked sometimes before. That's why sometimes I like old movies, because I forget things a lot. So it's kind of like a new movie every time I watch a lot of stuff.
Right? When it doesn't... I don't know. It doesn't help, too, that, we're now in the third franchise film of a franchise that's been rebooted 3 times now. That's just coming out this month with Spider-Man. And again, those movies came out in, 2003 era, 2002, somewhere in there. So it's like...
I think it was 2002 when the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out. Yeah,
and it's weird because, we've now lived through 3 different iterations of Spider-Man, and
I've had 3 legit Spider-Men in my adult life. Does that say something about me?
That's not even counting the made-for-TV or the original 80s movie. I don't know. It's something. And then you brought up this podcast, right? This is what we're doing. The whole podcast, get back on track. 20 years. Things that are 20 years old. I Googled movies. I need my cane. It's just, we thought about doing like movies that are going to be turning 20 next year, but let's celebrate this year, right?
Yeah, 2021 is almost in the book, so we'll just stick with the things that turned 20 this year.
Right? And ouch. So I guess it's time to put on our way back glasses. Is that what we're calling it now? And let's take a trip.
I think they call them your readers, is what you call them now.
Let's put into readers there. Oh, man.
So some of the ones off the top of the list that blow me away, Donnie Darko came out in 2001, the old Jake Gyllenhaal classic.
Is it really?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I remember in college watching that movie and being absolutely dumbfounded by it and falling in love with it. Miyazaki's Spirited Away came out in 2001, 20 years ago.
To me, like, oh my God. I guess, yeah, because I was going to say the animation style is great and everything like that, but I felt like it was a little bit, like 2007 or something.
No, but that's what you feel like it's the staying power of some of these, like Spirited Away. You go to any convention and things like that now, Spirited Away still has a very big presence in the art and the costumes and the things there. So, the staying power, something like that, is pretty fantastic, especially with in the United States here. That was a nothing. It was, some, anime lovers like this movie, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of staying power, what about Shrek? That's had 3 movies and some like spin-offs, right?
Oh, that was 2001
4 movies
too. Oh,
yeah.
My God.
Zoolander, This one, I didn't realize, Monsters, Inc. You know? It's, what was that? Pixar's follow-up movie to Toy Story type of thing, and all about, right? How do you feel about that?
I don't. It hurts.
Another one that really hurts because the franchise is still going on is Fast and the Furious. The very first one came out June 22nd of 2001, and it's still going strong today.
I feel like, not to knock people that love that, because a lot of people love that franchise. I never understood it to begin with. Like, the first one was okay. Hobbs and Shaw was kind of funny, but the rest of them, it's all just one giant car chase movie with, okay, whatever.
See, the first one tried to be... Oh, we're not going to even start that podcast. No. This isn't... I was going to say this. We're not going to do a Fast and Furious podcast, but it's one of those ones where, like, you know, especially when movies are still around today, like, the franchise is still going strong, especially with the same actors. Because, I mean, James Bond is one thing, right? It's been around forever, but it's cycled through. Fast and the Furious has had basically, like, the same core of people through each franchise film, and it's like... they've been going strong for 20 years. 20 years.
What's amazing how many of these things have, because I look at some of the lists on here. Laura Croft, the Angelina Jolie movie, came out in 2001, too.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that was the follow-up of after the pixelated version of her and the PlayStation got Tomb Raider all big. Then they made the movie there that was subpar at best, but they just had the second movie come out last year or something like that. I mean, it's decent staying power for a video game movie. Jurassic Park 3 came out in 2001, 20 years ago.
We can forget about that.
That's the Jurassic Park movie the world can forget, but...
Right? The Mummy Returns? That's... Okay,
Fraser.
This list hurts because I'm sitting here looking at this. I'm like, can we fact check this? Because Moulin Rouge.
See, I feel like we need to move forward on this because it's hitting me real hard too. Because this was also the time I worked in video stores from probably 1996 to about 2001. So all these things are way, way, way too familiar for me.
Where's a movie store?
Yeah, kids, back in the day when you had to go rent a video at the video store and bring the tape back and rewind it. That's what I did. But I remember stocking the shelves of some of these movies. Like I think of I Am Sam. Hated that movie. But I remember having to stack the shelves with copy after copy after copy after that stupid movie. Good soundtrack, bad movie.
Hey, here we go. What about we're talking movies. You know, we have some good ones in there, but you also have some stars that made their debut in 2001. Some big films. Tom Hardy, Black Hawk Down. I didn't know he was in that film.
I didn't either.
To be quite honest with you, Bradley Cooper in Wet Hot American Summer, Anne Hathaway in The Princess Diaries, and Seth Rogen in Donnie Darko. So there's some stars. 20 years they've been acting. And I kind of want to watch Black Hawk Down now to see where Tom Hardy was in that, because I'm like, I don't remember him in that.
Okay, here's something that will maybe make you feel bad about yourself. Speaking of celebrities. Let's see here. Billie Eilish was born in 2001.
Happy 21st birthday, Billie Eilish.
The biggest names in pop music was born in a year... Like 2001 was weird too because it was right after the big Y2K scare. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. It was absolutely ridiculous what people were afraid of for that. But so the world was coming back down from that. I mean, 2001 is the year the Trade Center bombing happened in New York. So like all kinds of crazy things happened in the world and things shifted and changed. But everything. This will make it go. We'll go to music albums that came out in 2001. How about that?
I don't know if I want that because I'm still jamming some choice tunes from that era. So
Daft Punk's Discovery.
Oh, that's such a good album.
Radiohead Amnesiac. The Gorillaz' first self-titled album.
What, with Clint Eastwood on it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. I don't much like that.
Unhappy.
I'm not happy. That's the problem.
Okay, System of a Down, Toxicity.
Wait, Toxicity came out that 2001? Not Steal This Album, but
White Stripes, White Blood Cells, Weezer's Green Album, Tool Lateralis, Slipknot's Iowa, Blink 182, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Oh, no.
Ramstein, Mutter. That wasn't a big one. Brand New, Your Favorite Weapon.
Oh, no.
Shakira's Laundry Service. Jimmy Eat World, Bleed American.
Oh, in the middle.
Sum 41, All Killer, No Filler.
Oh, no.
Pink, Misunderstood. Andrew WK, I Get Wet. John Mayer, Room for Squares. Missy Elliott, Missy So Addictive.
If you're listening to this without watching the video, my face is in a lot of pain. Like this really hurts because I still have a lot of those albums that are on heavy rotation.
Tenacious D's self-titled album. Nickelback, Silver Side Up. Basement Jaxx, Rudy. Incubus, Morning View. No Doubt, Rocksteady. D12, Devil's Night.
D12. There's something that a lot of kids don't know about.
Cake, Comfort Eagle.
Oh my God.
See, and here's another one where I go back to it, and like, I don't know about you, but the other thing I was doing in 2001, after I stopped working at video stores, I was working at college radio stations and at Hot Topic. So, again, all this music was on my radio or music player or computer like 15 hours a day. And every single one of those albums I named off, I can flash back to a time somewhere around that era that I was standing around doing something listening to this. It was 20 years ago.
I need to take a breather because especially since I looked at my list when you were rambling that off, the Xbox came out 20 years ago.
So
I didn't
what were you doing in 2001?
Well, I was a sophomore in high school, sophomore, junior. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't playing Xbox, I can tell you that. I was a PlayStation kid then. Mm-hmm. Jam into a lot of those albums that you said. Remember when we had to... Oh, my God. Okay, so you remember when we're sitting there driving around in our high school vehicles / early college, our first vehicle, right? Mm-hmm. They had a tape deck in it. Mm-hmm. So you had a choice to either buy the CD player that had the cassette adapter where you could put it in there and then plug it into your Discman, listen to CDs, right? Mm-hmm. Or you could go down to Car Toys, because that was the thing to do. You could pick out your deck that you wanted. They'd install it for you, and you could have the faceplate that comes off. So that's what I was doing. I'm pretty sure I went down to...
that came off. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. Just so nobody stole it, But I remember 2001, I'm pretty sure is when I got my CD player installed in my vehicle. And I made sure to get the ones with the faceplate, and I had to have the cool little bouncing things, right, when the music was going. Mm-hmm. And definitely, I remember jamming Gorillaz. What, did Afro Man come out around then, too?
A little after that, but close to it.
But right before that was Bloodhound Gang. Mm-hmm. Yep, so, I was jamming that. I was jamming definitely Sum 41. Like, most of those albums... Pull out your big old CD case, your binder, open it up and flip it while you're doing 55 down the highway trying to figure out the next CD that you want. And it always sucked because you'd pop open the CD case, or some of them had the fold down things. Mm-hmm. And if you hit it wrong, the whole faceplate would come off and you're like, oh, God. You got to get it connected back up. So that's what I was doing.
That was about the time that pretty much every person, even close to our demographic, had the big giant vinyl Case Logic CD case in the back seat of your car that had every CD you owned. That at the time was anywhere between $200 and $800 worth of music that people toted on their back seats and were targeted for thefts all over the place.
Oh man, that was one of the. So, what last podcast I was nostalgic about going down the boombox aisle, right? Mm-hmm. Going down not going to Car Toys aside, and picking out your perfect deck, going down the aisle that had the CD cases. you'd pick it up. You're like, okay, how does this one feel? Okay, this seems like it's going to scratch my CD. Because, there was some of those CD cases, as stupid as it sound, you put it in there and the quote-unquote cloth would, if you took it out wrong, would scratch your CD, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, picking out that perfect one. And when I had one of the big binders that got stolen, and then I also had another binder that had maybe about 100 of them that got stolen separate times. But, man, I was devastated. But now digital, we can kind of back that up. But man, back in the day, and when you get to school too or whatever, and you're around your friends and they pull out theirs, you're like, oh, can I borrow this? Yeah. And it blew my mind that some of my friends would like keep their video games in there. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's gonna get scratched.
Well, I mean, the Xbox and the PlayStation discs back then weren't as durable as they are now.
Well, they had that extra layer of black coating on them. It helped quite a bit.
Did it? Seems like those PlayStation discs back then scratched. Like you look at it wrong and it's like...
The light's reflecting off this slightly odd.
Right.
Okay, so I've got a few lists of other things that was through 2001 that might just get you here and there. In January of 2001... Bill Clinton gave his farewell address to the nation, and George W. Bush was sworn as the 43rd President of the United States. Mm-hmm. Baltimore Ravens won their first ever Super Bowl, beating the New York Giants. The Fairly Odd Parents debuted on Nickelodeon.
I love that show.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about Shrek coming out. The Colorado Avalanche won their first Stanley Cup. First reason I ever cared about hockey when they moved here.
Yep.
Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire came out.
Which a lot of people love that movie. Maybe I need to give it another try. I don't know.
Yeah, it was okay, but that was the year that Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas.
Shortly after, Queen of the Damned?
Mm-hmm.
That movie, yep.
What else happened there? There was...
iTunes came out.
Oh,
iTunes.
Remember the anthrax attacks?
Oh, yeah. That was shortly after 9/11, right?
Yeah, people were sending out mailed letters with anthrax to different places. Oh, I forgot all about that thing. The Yankees beat the Diamondbacks. Monsters, Inc. came out.
Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. So here's a fun story about that.
That was also the year Nintendo GameCube came out.
Yep. I was going to say, there's a lot of like video game news too, because I remember the all-around hype of Grand Theft Auto 3. And, I wanted a GameCube, but I didn't get one until later, and same with the Xbox. But like, again, I was a PlayStation kid. I had the original Grand Theft Auto, which was top-down, which came out in like 97 or 8 or something like that, I don't remember. And then I had the sequel to it. But Grand Theft Auto top-down was this huge thing because it was parental advisory and everything like that. So when they announced Grand Theft Auto 3, I remember reading my official PlayStation magazine, reading about it, going, oh, this looks so cool. I'm so hyped. The rumor mill started. I don't know where it started because the internet wasn't hugely a thing. But I remember a whole bunch of people at my school talking about like, oh, Grand Theft Auto 3 is going to get banned. As soon as it releases, they're going to put it off the shelves, blah, blah, blah. So I remember I drove my butt down to Game Force, which is now Game Factor, I think, in Greeley, if it's still a thing. And I went in there to get my copy of Grand Theft Auto 3 because I wanted to get it before they pulled it off the shelves and banned it. Because, it's Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto has always had some controversy around it.
Which I love. People say that you talk about that now, and you look at Grand Theft Auto 3 compared to the last couple installments. Like,
oh, yeah.
That was tame. Rocket launchers, that's all you got?
Extremely tame. But that's what's funny is because, like, even the top-down Grand Theft Auto, having the parental advisory sticker on it, made it this, like, whole, and you play, you're like, really? The graphics are trash. It's the top-down, so you're just seeing little pixel move around like this, and it was just, it's a fun game, but it's trash. But, like, Grand Theft Auto 3, the whole, like, all of a sudden it's third person now. It's going to be more realistic, and I remember playing, I'm like, oh, never beat it because I got bored with it because it's an open world game, but I was just like, oh, this is so cool, but I got to get it before they ban it, and now it's like, And they just re-released a remaster of it this year, and I'm like...
I feel like that is one of the only things that's ever been created that can make the phrase, yeah, you can only kill so many hookers before you get bored, actually make sense. Like it makes you feel like a horrible person, but you start playing, you're like, oh, what have you done? And you start to recap all the things that you did in the game. You're like, I feel like I'm a bad person right now, and I think I'm gonna go play something else now. Maybe some Bubble Bobble or something like that to get my spirits up.
Well, it's the thing too is like it was one of those ones where I'd play the missions, but I mean everybody, especially with when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, everybody got it to see how long they could stay alive and how long, I mean the cheat codes, I still remember some of them. I'm pretty sure you give me a PlayStation 1 controller, I probably could type it in, but that was the whole thing. And that was 20 years ago, Pino. 20 years ago, and that makes me hurt because I'm also looking at this going, my God, iTunes came out back then, the iPod came back in, Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus came out 20 years ago.
Check this out.
Yep.
This is probably about that. That's probably a little after. This is 2005. This was my this is my 30 gigabyte iPod.
I have a 32 gigabyte that sits in my truck that I use it every day. And I'm pretty sure it's from like 2005 or maybe 6 or 7. But still, I still jam that thing every day. And when it freezes up, I'm like, today's the day. Oh, nope, it still works. We're still good.
The funny thing is when I got this thing, I barely ever used it because I was so worried about it getting lost or stolen or broken that I barely ever used it. Because I was so worried about it getting broken.
Well, that's the thing, too, is remember, that was those were not, I mean, they're still not necessarily cheap, but...
No, but that was, I think this one was like $300-400 back in the day.
And you can put, what, like 2,000 songs on it? Oh, wait, no, 30 gigs.
30 gigs, you can put a lot on there.
Yeah, you can put... But I remember even the thing is, like, even when like the iPod Touch came out, it's like 6 gigs, and it was still like $300. Like, meh.
Well, that was, speaking of old there for it, back in those days, too, everybody got their MP3s because of Napster and file sharing and stuff like that. 128.8 was the standard for MP3s, which I go through my library now, and I get upset every time I get to a song that's back in 128 because it just sounds like garbage. You're like, all right, I ripped all my... Oh, this sounds awful. I'm going to have to go rebuy it now.
I was going to say, I definitely still have some songs that pop up on my iPod on random or on shuffle, and I'm like, why is this so quiet? And I'll turn it up, and then I'll forget, and it'll go to the next song. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I had one that I completely legally downloaded. Papa Roach's Love-Hate Tragedy, which that was probably, about 2002-ish, somewhere around there. Almost 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But it was downloaded off Napster, LimeWire files, or something like that. And I remember listening, this album is terrible. And I just listened to it and this is awful. It was poorly recorded, one. But the person that had done it basically took 4 songs and just cut them up in repeat and made it look like an album. So I was just listening to like the first 45 seconds of 3 songs over and over and over again. But I just put it in the background. Man, this stuff is just generic and boring. This is terrible. I'm like, oh, I guess there's actual songs on there I could be listening to.
Whoops.
But I don't know about you. I feel like I want to go buy some toys and play some 8-bit video games and give myself a hug now because...
Oh. I just, Bratz dolls are 20 years old now. Like, are Bratz still a thing?
I think there's like a new Bratz movie or something coming out, isn't there?
I have no idea. The thing is, too, is what's funny is like, Xbox has been advertising their 20th anniversary and it never clicked until I just saw this right now and I'm like, oh, oh, okay. You guys are now in your 4th generation and since you started, and ouch. That makes me hurt.
Well, we've kind of spilled our emotions here, and what kind of things do you remember that were 20 years ago that you have fond memories of? I mean, what have you been? Are you trying to convince yourself is not 20 years old? Yeah, maybe 20 years old, but no, in your mind, it came out just a few years ago because it was a thing you're into, right? Let us know in the comments at Get Geekish, and I want to get some more of these ideas out here because we can't be the only ones that are feeling like history's continuing without us.
Smallville started 20 years ago?
Oh, I love that movie.
The show?
Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon?
No, Smallville, the Superman show.
Oh,
that was on.
I was thinking
that was on the WB back in the day.
The CW used to be the WB and had their stupid animated frog. Ugh.
So yeah, if you want to hurt, go ahead and Google what came out 20 years ago, and ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
2 decades have gone by since those wonderful things we talked about this podcast have all come into the world.
Oh my gosh. I need some Aleve. Where's my icy hot?
Well, I hope this was enjoyable for you guys, because it was enjoyable for me, but in a very, very pained, nostalgic sense.
Big time.
I mean, I guess I could look in the bright side, like, yeah, I'm still here after 20 years to remember all that stuff, but it's a kick in the pants. It's those things that, you know, your elders told you when you were, that you never quite understood. Like, oh, yeah, wow, time really does fly by, doesn't it?
Oof.
Because I remember that feeling when I was 2001. I've been 21. Oof. Yeah, there's a reason some of the years kind of fuzzy. But I legitimately remember having a conversation with people about the old people, like in their 30s. God, 33 years old? What are they doing hanging out in a restaurant like this? What are the old people doing down here? Like, it was not a nice thing to say, but I remember having that thought in your head, like 30 was old when you were 21. 35, 40, ancient. And
right?
now that I'm 40, I'm like, I'm not that old, right? But then every time I am in an interaction with early 20-somethings, I get reminded just how old I am.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, it is that, but it's also, you know, I thought you were going to go the route of, like, you know, when they tell you time flies and stuff like that, and back then you're like, whatever. And then all of a sudden you blink and here we are talking about movies and stuff that came out 20 years ago going, what? It's true.
Back when movies came out, you know, you'd see that, oh man, we've got to wait an entire year to see that, and it just felt like an eternity. Like, you see that preview, like, comes out in 2023. Oh man, it's gonna be forever. Now something's like, oh, that comes out in 2023. I better put that on my calendar now so I can see it.
Right?
Better put a Google reminder to get some tickets for that.
You'll blink, it'll be like, and even at your job too, and they're like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, that'll be here before you know it. And you're like, okay, that's like a year away. And then you all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've been here for how long? Ugh.
Well, on that note, Derek, it's been fun. But everyone else, again, chime in on social media at Geekish. Go to the website. We got the podcast available in more places, too. So if you're listening to it wherever you're listening to, we got it now on, Amazon and Google and Apple and iHeart Radio and 15 or so places you can now get our podcast. So, hooray!
And, huge shout out to our sponsor of Insert Here for sponsoring this podcast. Really love their product.
Dream big. Dream
right?
big.
Someday.
And we will talk at you next week.
Hey, thanks for listening. We truly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. Find us on social media at Get Geekish. And if you want more podcasts, we got plenty of them.